Inshallah, we'll begin from ayah 214 of Surah Baqarah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يأتكم مثل الذين خلوا من قبلكم مستهم البأساء والضراء وزلزلوا حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر الله قريب يسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل ما أنفقتم من خير فللوالدين والأقربين واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل وما تفعلوا من خير فإن الله به عليم صدق الله العظيم. Do you think that you will enter Jannah without having undergone the likes of those who passed before you? Massathumul ba'sa, such adversity and affliction touched them, and they were shaken to the extent that the messenger and those who believed along with him said, when will the help of Allah come? Listen, Allah means listen, verily, Allah's help is near. يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ. They ask you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what should they spend? Say, whatever you spend from good, from khair, so it should be for your parents and your close relatives and the orphans and the needy and the travelers. And whatever you do of good, verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well aware of it. So inshallah, starting from ayah 214 of Surah Baqarah. So now after this, next week, the next ayah after this discusses some rulings of jihad. And we did speak about that before in Surah Baqarah, but as things come over, we revisit them. And of course, that's a delicate topic, or the way that it's discussed or the way that it's portrayed is something different than it is, so that deserves some time. So rather than getting into that and making it so lengthy, perhaps we might make it shorter today, right? But there is one thing that we will do today, or two things. Number one is last time the camera cut off, so some people, mashallah, I didn't know, but there are people that they watch consistently online as well. So they requested the last part of last 2 weeks ago, the session, that we repeat that, inshallah. So, and I think it's very beneficial. More people here this time anyway, and there are some very, very beneficial lessons in there, inshallah. So we'll discuss that. The second thing is, for 2-3 weeks, I introduced a topic, but it wasn't related to the tafsir per se. It came up when we were talking, and I said that I want to explain where the differences of the different madhahib came up from. Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali. And there's a historical context to it, because you can never divorce rules or fiqh, etc. from the context that they come in, right? A good writer, a good scholar will never ignore context, right? Context is something that's very so context is something that's very important. So when you realize that, when you see why these madhahib came up, you won't feel that one is better than the other, rather you'll get more of an appreciation for all of them. Okay? So we'll come to that inshallah last, but we'll talk about it today because we won't go our usual hours, right? So last week, what did we talk about? Because last week was Labor Day. The week before, we just read the last section of the hadith book Mishkatul Masabi, talking about the virtues of this ummah. And the reason that we did that was because people were fasting on that day, because it was the night of Muharram. So the last time we talked about reasons for Muslims' decline and descent. And what was it? It was getting further away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen. But along with that, another major factor was the internal conflicts. There were international conflicts, right? But along with that, intranational, right? Meaning, national meaning a deen, right? Al-millah, ad-din al-milla wahida. Or we could say that if you want to say inter-religious and intra-religious conflicts, right? Because of that, that led to a lot of problems. Then it didn't become about what is the truth. It didn't become that a person could just leave their opinion because their pride got into the matter. So because of that, you see whole sects of Islam are built upon people's pride or people trying to justify what they want to do. Go and look at how the Shias came to be. Go and look at how the Khawarij came up. Go and look at these different sects, the Jahmiyyah and all of them. Look at how they actually emerged. If you see, all of them, they emerged due to political reasons. And then what they had to do in order to backtrack and try to justify their actions, what they did was they tried to manipulate the deen. Even the Khawarij, those who killed Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh, those who tried to kill Muawiyah radiallahu anh and Umar bin As radiallahu anh, and those who killed Ali radiallahu anh successfully, the Khawarij, what did they do? They wanted to kill Ali radiallahu anh, right? For a political reason. Had nothing to do with Ali radiallahu anh agreeing to settle his dispute with Muawiyah radiallahu anh through arbitration. Had nothing to do with that. You have to go all the way back to the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and look what happened during the Ridda wars. Which people assisted Abu Bakr radiallahu anh at that time? Which people Abu Bakr radiallahu anh gave special privileges to due to their assistance, and see what Uthman radiallahu anh did with those people, right? And then you'll find out why Uthman radiallahu anh was murdered, and how those same people, they integrated themselves into both the army of Ali and the army of Muawiyah radiallahu anhuma. And then in order to justify killing them and getting them out of the way, what did they do? They made this whole sect, right? They started to say in the deen, anybody who commits any major sin becomes a kafir and becomes a murtad, and one who's a murtad, you can execute them according to them. And they said that Ali radiallahu anh, na'uzu billah, committed a major sin. So now you're allowed to kill him, right, according to them. And now all of this was done by the original people. The people that came after, they may have actually believed in it, right? But this is how sects come up. So we have to know about context. Very, very important, right? And a lot of these contexts and a lot of the conflicts and changes that came in deen were what? Due to people's pride, arrogance, and desires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke about that. That's what we spoke about as well. And that's why the Muslims, that's the reason for their decline. Okay? So now, coming to Ayah 113, and this is, so you can just go over it again for the people in the camera watching. It is important. Look, Ayah 213. So what is the main reason of the Muslims' decline and disgrace? It's conflict. So conflict in deen, did it always exist? Yes or no? No, it did not always exist, right? It came about later on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا. This is Ayah 213 actually. Right, from the time of Adam alayhi salam to before the time of Nuh alayhi salam, the deen was one. Everybody followed the same religion, right? From the time of Adam alayhi salam to Nuh alayhi salam. This is why in Bukhari, the first hadith, the ayah that's brought, because you know Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, he brings ayat in his chapter headings. Well, after innamal a'malu binniyat, in the beginning of Kitab al-Wahi, right? What Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentions this ayah, inna arsalna nuhan ila qawm, inna uhayna ilayka kama uhayna ila nuhi wan nabiyyina min ba'di wa uhayna ila Ibrahim wa Ismail. So then the question comes up when you're saying Bukhari, why is Nuh alayhi salam mentioned? Wasn't Adam alayhi salam a prophet before? Why do people say that Nuh alayhi salam is the first prophet? Because they say the reason that this ayah is brought is because Nuh alayhi salam was the first Rasul or prophet. Then people say, well, Adam alayhi salam was a prophet. Basically what it comes down to, Nuh alayhi salam was the first Rasul, or he was the first one who actually had to give da'wah to the people and call them from kufr back to Islam. Because before that, all of the prophets, they were sent with guidance to guide people who already believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There might have been sins, but there wasn't kufr before that. Okay? This is something that's important, something that we should know as well. Another point to remember is when we say that Adam alayhi salam is the first prophet, this tells us the importance of wahi, and this shows us the importance of this session that we have, or any study of the Quran. It doesn't have to be here. And that is that the Quran is wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're sitting here together collectively week after week in order to understand wahi. And wahi is revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the link between us and the divine. The link between us and Allah. Right? And to understand how important wahi is, we need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow humanity, the greatest of His creation, to be without wahi for even 1 second. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the first human being the first prophet. The first person who received wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the first human being. Meaning that there was no gap between the creation of mankind and that link to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through wahi. That's why it's extremely important for us to understand this. So until the time of Nuh alayhi salam, everybody was one religion. كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا. Mankind was a single community. Then the love of dunya came in and conflicts arose. And how did these come? They were spurred on by shaitan, and people's temperaments changed, right? When one person or that first generation of people, like you look at your life stories, right? MashaAllah, I think that maybe me and Nasir Bhai and my brother, we were born here, right? Everybody else was born overseas. Yeah? So either, for the younger people here, you're going through the struggle right now, right? You're struggling, you're working hard. And for some of you, mashallah, you've reached a place in life where perhaps the struggle is over, at least you're seeing the fruits of your labor, right? But you had to work and you had to work and you had to work, right? Now, do your children have the same work ethic as you? You guys will see. The answer is no. I say that about my own kids, and I was born here, right? That they don't have the same work ethic as our generation. You probably see that in your own children, right? You see, as time goes on, temperaments change. Or I've said this quote several times, that hard times create strong people. Strong people create good times. Good times create weak people. Weak people create bad times, and the cycle goes on and on. Right? So mashallah, you guys are going through hard times. That will turn you, mashallah, into good people. And that will lead to our strong people. And that will lead to good times. The good times, though, inevitably they lead to weak people. Hopefully not in our kids' generation. But that's a cycle. It's going to happen. And then after that, go into bad times. And it looks like for us, the bad time will be the time of Dajjal, right? That's what it looks like for this generation or the next few generations. The bad times, and then after that, inshallah, will come up again. Okay, so khair. The love of the dunya came in and conflicts arose, spurred on by shaitan and people's temperaments changing. فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ النَّبِيِّينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent messengers to break up this conflict, right? So you have to read between the lines. كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا. Mankind was one ummah. فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ النَّبِيِّينَ. Fa means so. Mankind was one ummah, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent messengers, mubashirin wa mundhirin, giving glad tidings and warning. No, read between that. They were one, mankind was one nation, and then conflicts arose. So, فَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ النَّبِيِّينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent messengers to guide the people and resolve their conflict. So the messengers had two roles. Number one, mubashirin, as givers of glad tidings for those who clung to the truth, and mundhirin, as warners to those who let the love of the world misguide them. So what objection did the people of Nuh alayhi salam have against his message? Did they say that fundamentally there's something wrong with your message? What was their objection? What did they say to Nuh alayhi salam?
You're the poor people.
You're the poor people. Hafiz Sahib, you're here. The third page of 12th juz. What is it? مثل الفريقين كالأعمى والأصم والبصير والسميع هل يستويان مثلا فلا تذكرون ولقد أرسلنا نوحا. Go ahead. ولقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه. What's after that? ولقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه أن أنذر قوم. No. ولقد أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه. إني لكم نذير مبين ألا تعبدوا إلا الله إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم أليم فقال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه ما نراك إلا بشرا مثلنا وما نراك اتبعك إلا الذين هم أراذلنا بادي الرأي وما نرى لكم علينا من فضل بل نظنكم كاذبين. So the leaders of Nuh alayhi salam's people, they said that ما نراك إلا بشرا مثلنا. We don't think that you're anything besides a person like us. وَمَا نَرَاكَ اتَّبَعَكَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَرَاذِلُنَا بَادِيَ الرَّأْيِ. And we see the filthy people, poor people, people who are a lowly status, they follow you. Right? وَمَا نَرَى لَكُمْ عَلَيْنَا مِنْ فَضْلٍ. We don't see any virtue in it. Right? Meaning, look, they say that, look, the poor people follow you, so why should we follow them? The losers, na'uzubillah, are following you, right? So we're not going to follow you. So what did Nuh alayhi salam say? قال يا قوم أرأيتم إن كنت على بينة من ربي وآتاني رحمة من عنده فعميت عليكم أنلزمكموها وأنتم لها كارهون. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided me and you're turning a blind eye to it. So what, should I force you? I'm not. And then later on in other surahs, we see Nuh alayhi salam says, I'm not one that's going to turn away any person that believes in me. Anybody that believes in me, how can I turn them away? It doesn't matter that you're rich. In Surah Abasa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Abasa wa tawalla an ja'ahu al-a'ma wa a'ma wa ma yudrika la'allahu yazakka aw yadhakkaru fatanfa'u dhikra amma man istaghna fa anta lahu tasadda. That the one who thinks that they're so big and bad and they have everything, fa anta lahu tasadda, you go behind them and you run after them and you try to please them. Wa ma alayka alla yazakka wa amma man ja'aka yas'a. But the one who comes to you running towards you trying to learn, وَأَمَّا مَنْ جَاءَكَ يَسْعَى وَهُوَ يَخْشَى فَأَنْتَ عَنْهُ تَلَهَّى. So see, this is something that we need to remember, right? Their objection was not about the message itself in Nuh alayhi salam's time. It was about the people following the message. In Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's time as well, what the people would say, that وَقَالُوا لَوْلَا نُزِلَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ عَلَى رَجُلٍ مِّنَ الْقَرْيَتَيْنِ عَظِيمٍ. Why was it this Qur'an is good, but why was it revealed to the noblemen of these big two towns of Mecca or Taif? Why did it go to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam? So their problem was not with the message, it was this, it was in their heart, right? It was that they looked down on other people. And it was their love of the world and their love of status and position. I said this before, that the day of the battle of Badr, an A'rabi, a Bedouin, came into Abu Jahl's tent. And he said that, I'm asking you, tell me the truth. Is Muhammad on haqq or is Muhammad on batil? Is he on the truth or is he lying? He said, are you going to tell anybody? He said, no, I'm not going to tell anyone. He said that Muhammad for 40 years, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he didn't lie about the dunya. Why would he just start one day lying about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But you see, his people, my tribe and his tribe, they're always in conflict. And if his tribe gets the last prophet, how will we ever answer? They'll always have one up on us, right? And then there's economic implications. Although if he had actually believed, they would have been he would have been part of the richest generation of the world. So he said, we can't believe him because of this, because of our conflict with his tribe, our rivalry with that tribe, right? And this stayed with him. This illness manifested at the time of his death. What did Abu Jahl say? Abu Jahl, when he was found on the field of battle, right, dying, who was he found by? I told you guys last time. Who was he found by? Abdullah bin Mas'ud. But who are the people that wounded him? Yes, Mu'awwiz and Mu'az, two stepbrothers. Do you remember what happened when Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anh said? Do you guys remember?
He said, cut my neck lower so my head is higher on the...
That's what Abu Jahl said. But so this is, the hadith is in Bukhari, you'll find in Bukhari. Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anh is speaking about the battle of Badr. And when you're in battle, you know what people, even in English we have this, I would go to war with him, right? Meaning that you want to have reliable people with you. You want to have strong people with you, right? You don't want to be on an army with all people who are lower. That's why LeBron James left the Cavs the first time, right? So he could go to war with the more talented players, right? So anyway, on his side, Abdurrahman bin Auf, he sees 13-year-old, 14-year-old. And on this side, he sees a 14-year-old. He's saying, so what's going to happen to me? Then, on top of that, not only does he have little kids, they want to talk. So one of them bumps him. He says, uncle, who's Abu Jahl? So what do you want to know about Abu Jahl? He said that, I heard he says bad things about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm going to handle him today. Then the other one, on the other side, they were half brothers. I mean, they had the same mother, they had different fathers. So then, so both of them are known as bin Afra. They're known by their mother's name. So anyway, the second one, he said, where's Abu Jahl? He said, why? He said, same thing. He said bad things about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I want to handle him. So in the battle, these two, they went and they attacked Abu Jahl, and one of them lost his arm, but they wounded him. Then another Sahabi, the name is slipping my mind, it's slipping my mind what his father's name was. He came and he actually mortally wounded Abu Jahl. But then Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh, when he went through the battlefield to see whoever was there, he found Abu Jahl. And at that time Abu Jahl, when he saw Abdullah bin Mas'ud stood above him. And then Abu Jahl said, "Oh, shepherd boy," because Abdullah bin Mas'ud was a shepherd.
Yeah, that's right. He was helpful.
He was a shepherd, right, in Mecca. And you know, like today I was talking in the khutbah about Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, and how when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was being beat, nobody was able to come to his defense. Like Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh was there, but he was weak, he was small, he was skinny, he was a shepherd, he had no protection in the society. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was attacked and beat, only one person came to his defense, and that was Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. He said, "Ataqtuluna rajulan ay yaqula rabbi Allah." Will you kill a man because he says my Rabb is Allah? And the people, they attacked Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. To the point that Abu Bakr radiallahu anh's family, they said it's not a possibility, rather it's an inevitability. It's a foregone conclusion, he's gonna die. So they came in front of the Kaaba and they said that when Abu Bakr dies, we're going to kill Uqba in retaliation. But he survived, right? You know, the khutbah is on YouTube too, you can see.
Yeah.
And anyways, coming back to this. So Abdullah bin Mas'ud, Abu Jahl said to him, "Oh shepherd boy, you go very high." So he said, "Look, I want you to do me a favor. I wish somebody else killed me besides for you, somebody more noble. But if you have to do it, I want you to cut very low, so that if you stack the heads of the people next to one another, my head will still be the highest." Right? That is what pride and arrogance it can do to a person, right? That even at a time like that, you're thinking, even Fir'aun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that Abu Jahl is the Fir'aun of this ummah. Even Fir'aun at the time of his death, he said that I believe that La ilaha illalladhi amanat bihi banu Israel, that there's no God but the God of the Bani Israel, wa ana min al-Muslimin, and I am from amongst the Muslimin. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it's too late. At least he tried. Abu Jahl didn't even try. He said, I just want my head to be the highest, right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from this disease, right? So then, وَأَنزَلَ مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ. So along with these messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent messengers with the book. This al in kitab, it's alif lam jinsi. It's not istighraqi. Not every messenger came with every single book. Alif lam jinsi means that it's a type of book, meaning a divine book. So whatever messenger you're thinking about is referring to the book that they came with, right? This is what alif lam jinsi is. Okay, وَأَنزَلَ مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ. It refers to all of the books relative to the Prophet. لِيَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. So that the book could rule and decide between the people in that which they differed upon. Then, so now people's love for the dunya came in. Now, the second level of change and conflict is these intra and international conflicts. They arose, and that led to the loss of the truth. So the people should have accepted what the book said. Meaning the book has come and now there's more conflict. The book came to raise up and get rid of conflict, but the book is leading to more conflict. And we're seeing that in front of our eyes today, right? They should have accepted what the book said with their heart and soul, but instead they made the thing that was sent to end their arguments and dispute the object of their arguments and dispute, right? So the thing that was sent to end arguments and dispute became the object of argument and dispute. The very kitab that was sent to end their argument and dispute, they began to argue and object about it, right? وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ فِيهِ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوهُ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتِ. It was only those to whom it was given who disagreed about it after clear signs had come to them. Meaning signs are there, the truth is there, but then they began to disagree. Why? I have to make my position strong. But this conflict was not based on anything of substance. Rather, it was بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مِن بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَتْهُمُ الْبَيِّنَاتِ. After clear signs came to them, بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ. Because of rivalry and enmity between them. So what was the basis of these conflicts? Personal ambition and rivalry. This is international conflict. This is, look, when you study books of hadith, when you study the shuruhat of hadith, when you study the books of fiqh, you'll see this a lot. Ta'assub. You'll see a great scholar of hadith, all of a sudden he'll close his eyes and he'll forget the hadith that supports the Shafi'i mazhab. Why? Because he's a Hanafi. Or the great Shafi'i scholar will forget the hadiths that support the Hanafi madhab. Despite bringing them in their other books, all of a sudden they'll close their eyes. It's not right? That's academic dishonesty, right? These are great people, they fall prey to this, right? And you'll see other later scholars, they point out, they make these points, right? So anyway, but this conflict, it was built on this baghyan bainahum, rivalry in terms of personal ambition, and then in rivalry between nations, between the Yahud, between the Nasara, etc. So these conflicts led to a splintering of nations. So the hadith in Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and Ibn Majah, it says that there were the Yahud, they broke into 70 sects. All of them are misguided. And the Nasara, they broke into 71 sects, and all of them are misguided. And this ummah goes even further. You think that the Yahud have a lot of sects? You think that the Nasara have a lot of sects? The Muslims have even more. Now remember, many scholars have gone to great pains to try to point out what are the 72 sects. Just remember that the number 70 in Arabic, think of it like when we say a lot, right? In English, if you want to say, you tell somebody something 2 or 3 times, I told you 10 times, right? Now if you've done something more than 10 times, what's the next thing? I've told you 100 times, right? And then after 100, we jump to 1,000,000, right? So in Arabic, think of the same thing. When they say I did something a lot of times, they say 7. When they say even more than 7, 70, right? And when you just go to huge number, you say 70,000, right? So if you do that, if you look at it that way, it says that the Yahud, they split into a lot of groups. And then by saying 71, the Nasara outdid them, meaning they spread into even more groups. And then the Muslims, you don't have to find 72 because you see factors coming up today, right? You see queer masjids coming up today in Chicago, in San Francisco, and this and that. You have people who are trying to change the deen today, right? And make up new interpretations of deen. You have that coming today. So you don't need to find 72 now, just say that we've outdone. Now I'll also come to just one side point over here. This is something that's important. Okay, this is something that we need to know and we should have in mind. Why do, me or some scholars, they talk about this, right? They talk about like people who support like gay marriage and try to reinterpret the Quran to say that homosexual relations are okay. Why is this important? Why does this need to be harped on? First, I want to mention one point. If a person has these desires, does that make that person bad? Does that make that person a non-Muslim, a kafir? No, not at all, right? A person can have any desire. A person can have a desire to sleep with the same gender, with the opposite gender, with an animal, it doesn't matter. As long as the person doesn't act on it, the person doesn't get any sin. Rather, they get reward for suppressing themselves, right? Same as if a person has a desire to drink or do drugs or to do zina with the opposite gender, right? If they're not allowed to do these things, right? So it's just a desire at that point. There's nothing wrong with that. If a person happens to actually fall into the sin, does that make them a kafir? No, it makes them a sinner. Just like a person who drinks, or just like a person who does zina with the opposite gender, right? It makes them somebody who sinned, right? But now when a person tries to reinterpret Islam and make this act okay, now you're teetering very, very dangerously on the border of kufr because you're trying to change deen. Now why is this point even important? Let's go to the story of Yahya alayhi salatu wassalam. Why was Yahya alayhi salam